The interstate stretched endlessly ahead, broken yellow lines blurring in my peripheral vision as I fought to keep my eyes open. 3 weeks. 21 days of conference rooms, client dinners, and hotel beds that smelled like industrial detergent. The consulting project in Denver had been a nightmare, a failing tech startup whose founders couldn't agree on basic business decisions. My phone buzzed against the passenger seat. Emily's name lit up the screen. "Miss you, baby. Can't wait until tomorrow night." Tomorrow night. She thought I was coming home Thursday, but I'd wrap things up early. The surprise would be worth seeing her face light up when I walked through the door tonight instead. God, I missed her. Missed the way she'd curl up against me on the couch. Missed her terrible singing in the shower. Missed the smell of her perfume on my shirts. I pulled into the grocery store parking lot. Flowers first. Those white roses she loved, the ones that reminded her of our wedding bouquet. Then the wine aisle. 2019 Caymus Cabernet, the same vintage we'd shared on our 5th anniversary last year. The familiar streets of our neighborhood welcomed me back. Our house sat at the end of the cul-de-sac, a modest 2-story colonial with the blue shutters Emily had insisted on painting last summer. Something felt wrong immediately. A silver BMW sat in our driveway, one I didn't recognize. My stomach tightened. Emily's Honda was there too, pulled up close to the garage. The BMW was parked behind it, blocking her in. The house was dark except for the upstairs bedroom window. Our bedroom. A warm glow flickered against the curtains. Candlelight, maybe. The front door was unlocked. "Emily," I called out. "Honey, I'm home early." Silence. I set the flowers on the kitchen counter, the wine beside them. My feet found the stairs automatically, muscle memory guiding me toward our bedroom. Each step felt heavier than the last. A sound drifted down from upstairs. Soft, rhythmic. My wife's voice, but not calling my name. My hands moved without conscious thought, pulling out my phone and activating the camera. The engineer in me took over, the same methodical mind that had built my career by solving problems through careful observation and documentation. I pushed the bedroom door open just enough to see inside. Emily was naked, her dark hair spread across our pillows. Above her, equally naked, was Colin Morrison. My boss. The man who'd sent me to Denver for 3 weeks. They were so lost in each other that they didn't notice me in the doorway. I recorded everything. The video was clear, unambiguous. But I kept the phone steady, capturing not just the physical betrayal, but the intimacy that cut deeper than any mere sexual act. "I can't wait until he's traveling again," Emily said, her finger tracing circles on Colin's chest. "These 3 weeks have been heaven." "The Denver project was perfect timing," Colin replied. "I might have to send him to Seattle next month." They talked about me like I was an inconvenience, a problem to be managed. Emily mentioned changing the locks just in case. Colin laughed and suggested they could have dinner parties here, invite people from the office who didn't know about their relationship. I backed away from the door, my phone still recording. 23 minutes of video. Their voices were clear, their faces identifiable. No ambiguity, no room for explanation or denial. The smart play was to gather information first. Emily and Colin had been planning this for months, maybe longer. I needed to know how deep the betrayal went before confronting them. They had it all figured out, every detail planned, every contingency covered. Except for one thing they couldn't have anticipated. I was already home. I sat in the guest room for 47 minutes, listening to my life disintegrate through the walls. During those 47 minutes, I cataloged everything I'd observed, the way Colin moved through my house like he owned it, the casual intimacy that spoke of routine, of comfort built over time. This wasn't an affair, it was a relationship. I'd built my career on solving complex problems by breaking them down into manageable components. This situation was no different. I had evidence, I had legal grounds, I had the element of surprise. What I didn't have was the man I'd been when I left for Denver 3 weeks ago. That man was dead. The shower stopped. I heard footsteps in the hallway, then opened the guest room door. Colin was dressed now, carrying his shoes. He froze when he saw me, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and terror. "Daniel," his voice cracked. "Jesus Christ, I thought you were coming home tomorrow," I finished. "Yeah, I got that impression." Emily appeared behind him, wrapped in the silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas. Her face went white when she saw me. "How long?" I asked, my voice perfectly calm. Colin straightened his shoulders, preparing to take control. "Daniel, listen, this is complicated." I held up my phone. The video paused on a clear shot of them together. "Actually, it's pretty simple." The blood drained from Colin's face. Emily made a choking sound. "You can't," Colin started. "Can't what? Can't document what's happening in my own bedroom?" Emily found her voice. "Daniel, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you've been my boss while I was working to support us? That you've been planning to change the locks?" The words came out flat, emotionless. Inside, something was screaming, but my voice remained steady. Colin stepped forward, his jaw set. "You need to delete that video, Daniel. I can make things very difficult for you professionally." "My reputation?" I laughed. "You're standing in my hallway half-dressed after f***ing my wife in my bed, and you're threatening my reputation? Watch your mouth, Daniel." "Or what? You'll fire me?" I shook my head. "Colin, I think you're missing the bigger picture." He stepped closer, fists clenched. "You need to delete that video and keep your mouth shut, for everyone's sake." "For everyone's sake? Or for your sake?" He shoved me then, 2 hands against my chest. It was exactly what I'd been waiting for. The physical aggression gave me legal cover for what happened next. I'd spent 3 weeks in hotel gyms working out my frustration. Colin was soft in the way successful men become when they stop worrying about physical challenges. My right hand caught him in the solar plexus. My left came up under his chin. He stumbled backward, hit the wall, and slid down to his knees. Emily screamed, "Daniel, stop!" But I wasn't stopping. 4 years of being his subordinate, of swallowing his condescension, it all poured out in controlled fury. I grabbed him by his shirt and hauled him to his feet, then drove my knee into his stomach. "You want to threaten me?" I asked, forcing him to look at me. "You want to make things difficult for me?" Blood ran from his nose. Emily was crying, begging me to stop. "You've been making things difficult for me for months," I continued. "Sending me away so you could f*** my wife, planning your romantic evenings in my house, laughing about it." I hit him again, this time in the ribs. "Did you think I was stupid, Colin?" I pulled him toward the stairs, his legs barely supporting his weight. At the front door, I shoved him outside onto the porch. "Get out," I said simply, "and don't come back." Colin staggered to his BMW, leaving drops of blood on the driveway. The Hendersons' porch light came on across the street. Mrs. Chen was standing at her bedroom window. By morning, the entire neighborhood would know. I turned back to Emily. "How long?" I asked again. 6 months, she whispered. "It started at the company Christmas party." "Pack a bag," I said. "You're leaving tonight." She nodded and disappeared upstairs. I called my lawyer's emergency number. "Sarah, it's Daniel Cross. I need to file for divorce first thing tomorrow morning." "Daniel?" "It's almost midnight. What happened?" "I have video evidence of my wife committing adultery with my boss. In my house." "I'll be in my office at 8 a.m., she said. "Don't delete anything." After Emily left with her suitcase, I sat alone in my living room. The video was still there, 23 minutes of evidence that would change everything. I uploaded it to 3 different cloud storage services. Colin Morrison thought he could threaten me, thought he could intimidate me into silence. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Sarah Miller's office occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower downtown. I'd been there once before, 3 years ago, when Emily and I had updated our wills. The irony wasn't lost on me. We'd sat in these same chairs, holding hands, planning for a future that included each other. Now Sarah sat across from me, her laptop open, legal pad covered with notes. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the sharp intelligence of someone who'd clawed her way to the top of a competitive profession. "The video is unambiguous," she said, reviewing the footage. "Clear faces, clear audio, time-stamped. This establishes adultery beyond any reasonable doubt." I nodded, watching her make notes. She'd been clinical in her review, fast-forwarding through the intimate moments to focus on the conversation afterward. "The real value isn't just the adultery," Sarah continued. "It's the premeditation. This isn't a one-time mistake. It's sustained deception. Emily's comments about changing the locks, Colin's mention of future business trips. They discuss your schedule like they're planning around an obstacle. What about the workplace angle?" Sarah's expression sharpened. "That's where this gets interesting. Colin Morrison is your direct supervisor, correct? And he's been manipulating your work assignments to facilitate his affair? The Denver project was supposed to be 2 weeks. He extended it to 3 at the last minute. But from what I heard, he extended it so they could have more time together. Abuse of authority, workplace harassment, breach of fiduciary duty." Sarah made rapid notes. "Your company has policies against supervisor relationships." "Yes, and definitely against supervisors manipulating assignments for personal gain. This isn't just a divorce case, Daniel. This is a corporate scandal waiting to happen." She leaned back. "Colin Morrison has created multiple legal vulnerabilities. The adultery gives us grounds for your divorce, but his workplace behavior gives us grounds for much more." "What kind of much more?" "Wrongful termination if he fires you, workplace harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Depending on how deep this goes, possibly a class action." Sarah pulled up a file. "I researched Colin Morrison this morning. Married 12 years, 2 children. Wife is Sarah Morrison, pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital." "You think she should know?" "She has a right to know. More importantly, if she files for divorce citing adultery, it corroborates your case. 2 victims of the same affair." The pieces were falling into place. Colin's arrogance had created a web of legal exposure that extended far beyond workplace indiscretion. He'd used his position to manipulate my schedule, violated company policy, and destroyed basic professional ethics. "What about Emily financially?" "She's entitled to very little. The adultery evidence allows us to argue for a larger share of assets based on her misconduct. More importantly, it prevents her from claiming alimony." Sarah handed me a document. "This is a restraining order. It prevents Emily from entering the house, accessing joint accounts, or disposing of assets. I've already filed it." "The fast?" "When someone brings me video evidence of adultery, I don't waste time." She studied my face. "How are you holding up?" "I'm angry. But I'm also clear-headed. I want them to pay for what they did." "Very well. But revenge has a cost. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about the man I'd been 3 weeks ago, driving to Denver with a head full of business plans and a heart full of love. That man was gone. "I'm prepared," I said. Sarah pulled up a template on her laptop. "This isn't just a resignation, it's a corporate nuclear device. We're going to document everything. The workplace harassment, the abuse of authority, the manipulation of your assignments." "Who gets copies?" "Everyone who matters. Human resources, the board of directors, the CEO, department heads, key clients. We're going to make this public in a way that forces the company to take immediate action. Oh. She explained how my evidence could be used not just for divorce proceedings, but for workplace harassment claims, given Colin's position of power. The footage created an ironclad case that would force Morrison Industries to choose between protecting Colin and protecting themselves. Corporate liability trumps personal loyalty every time, Sarah said. She handed me a printed copy of the resignation letter. 12 pages of carefully documented misconduct, each allegation supported by evidence and witness testimony. It read like an indictment. When do we submit this? Tomorrow morning. I want to coordinate with my contact at Morrison Industries' legal department first. I stood to leave, then turned back. Sarah, when this letter goes out, there's no going back. Colin's career is over. His marriage is probably over, and Emily's life is about to become very complicated. Yes, are you having second thoughts? I thought about the video. Emily's laugh as Colin whispered in her ear. Their casual discussion of my schedule like I was a problem to be managed. Colin's threats in my hallway. No, I said. I'm not having second thoughts. Sarah smiled. Good, because what they did to you was unforgivable. They don't get to destroy your life and walk away clean. Colin Morrison thought he was untouchable. Emily thought she could manipulate the situation with tears and apologies. They were both about to learn that the quiet, compliant man they'd betrayed no longer existed. I woke at 5:30 a.m., my internal clock precise despite everything that had changed. The house felt different, larger, emptier. Emily's absence was palpable in the unused coffee cup, the single plate in the dishwasher, the silence where her morning routine should have been. I made coffee and reviewed the resignation letter one final time. 12 pages of documented misconduct. Each paragraph a carefully constructed legal missile aimed at Colin Morrison's career. Sarah had crafted it with surgical precision. Every allegation supported by evidence. At exactly 8 a.m., I received Sarah's text. Package delivered to Morrison Industries legal department. Board meeting scheduled for 9:30. Execute at 9:45. The timing was crucial. Sarah's contact had received advance copies, giving them 30 minutes to understand their liability before the story went public. By 9:45, they'd be in crisis mode, scrambling to protect themselves. I showered and dressed in my best suit, the charcoal gray I'd worn to my promotion ceremony 2 years ago. If I was going to destroy my career, I wanted to look professional doing it. At 9:30, I sat in my home office and opened my laptop. The resignation letter was ready to send, email addresses verified, board members, department heads, key clients, HR personnel, everyone who mattered would receive the full story within minutes. My phone buzzed with a call from Colin. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Daniel, we need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. Call me back immediately. The desperation in his voice was unmistakable. Too late. At 9:45 exactly, I clicked send. The emails went out simultaneously to 47 recipients. 12 pages of documented misconduct supported by video evidence, witness statements, and a comprehensive timeline. The subject line read, Formal resignation and documentation of workplace harassment. I leaned back and waited. The first response came within 3 minutes, an automated reply from the CEO's office. The second from HR, requesting an immediate meeting. The third from the board chairman. Mr. Cross, please contact my office immediately. My phone started ringing. Colin, then Emily, then numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all, watching the digital explosion unfold. At 10:15, Sarah called. It's done. Morrison Industries has terminated Colin Morrison, effective immediately. Security is escorting him from the building. I felt cold satisfaction. What about the company's response? Full cooperation with any legal proceedings. They're throwing him under the bus to protect themselves. The board is meeting in emergency session for damage control. And Emily? Her phone's been ringing all morning. Colin's wife received a copy of the video evidence. She's filing for divorce this afternoon. I walked to my window, looking out at the quiet suburban street. Mrs. Chen was working in her garden, the same routine she'd maintained for 5 years. The normalcy felt surreal. "Daniel?" Sarah's voice brought me back. "Morrison Industries is offering a severance package, full salary for 6 months, health benefits for a year, and a generous non-disclosure agreement. They want to buy my silence. They want to limit exposure. Given the circumstances, we're in a position to negotiate." "Counteroffer," I said. "Full salary for 12 months, benefits for 2 years, and no non-disclosure agreement." Sarah laughed. "I'll make the call." At 11:30, my doorbell rang. Colin Morrison stood on my porch, his face pale and drawn. He was still wearing his suit, but his tie was gone and his shirt wrinkled. The corporate golden boy looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. "What do you want, Colin?" "You destroyed my life," he said, his voice hollow. 20 years of building my career, gone in one morning. I documented your misconduct. You destroyed your own life. My wife is filing for divorce. My children won't speak to me. I'm professionally blacklisted. He looked up with desperate eyes. Was it worth it? Was your revenge worth destroying my family? I thought about his 2 children, innocents in this mess. His wife, Sarah, who would rebuild as a single mother. The collateral damage was real. "You should have thought about your family before you started f***ing my wife," I said. Colin's shoulders sagged. "I know I was wrong. But couldn't you have handled it differently? Confronted me privately? Like you gave me a choice about whether to trust my wife?" I shook my head. "You made your choices. Every consequence you're facing is a direct result of your actions." "Please?" he whispered. "Is there anything I can do to make this right?" I looked at the man who had been my boss for 4 years, who had signed my performance reviews and approved my promotions, who had sent me to Denver so he could sleep with my wife in my bed. "No," I said. "There's nothing you can do." He nodded and turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now." "You're right," I said. "It doesn't mean anything." After he left, I checked my phone. 17 missed calls from Emily, 23 text messages. The last one read, "Please call me. My life is falling apart. I have nowhere to go." I deleted the message without responding. At 2 p.m., Sarah called with final details. Morrison Industries had accepted my counter-offer. 12 months full salary, 2 years of benefits, no non-disclosure agreement. Colin's termination was official. Emily's divorce papers would be served tomorrow. "It's over," Sarah said. "You won." But sitting alone in my empty house, surrounded by the wreckage of my old life, winning felt remarkably similar to losing. I walked to the kitchen and found the flowers I'd bought 2 nights ago, now wilted and brown. The wine was still there too, the bottle I'd planned to share with Emily. I threw the flowers in the trash and put the wine in the refrigerator. Outside, the neighborhood continued its quiet routine. Mrs. Chen still worked in her garden. The mailman made his rounds. Normal life continuing. But something had changed. The man who had driven home from Denver with flowers and love was gone. In his place was someone harder, colder, more calculating. Someone who had learned that trust was a luxury and revenge was a necessity. Someone who had discovered that justice, no matter how perfectly executed, couldn't restore what had been lost. The coffee shop on 5th Street had become my regular morning stop, a ritual I'd developed in the months since everything changed. I liked the anonymity of it, the way I could sit in the corner booth without anyone expecting conversation or sympathy. I was reading the business section when I saw the headline, "Former Morrison Industries Executive Declares Bankruptcy." The article was brief, clinical in its description of Colin Morrison's fall from grace. Professional exile, mounting legal fees, and divorce costs had stripped away the comfortable life he'd built over 20 years. The story mentioned his current employment at a software startup downtown, a position paying 1/3 of his former salary. The article treated him like any other failed executive. I felt nothing. 6 months ago, reading about Colin's continued downfall would have brought satisfaction. Now it was just information, as relevant as the weather report. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Still on for dinner tonight? I'm thinking that Italian place on Market Street." Rachel was a project manager at my new company, a software firm specializing in financial consulting. We'd been dating for 3 months, a relationship that had grown slowly from professional respect to genuine affection. She was the opposite of Emily in every way that mattered: direct instead of deceptive, optimistic instead of manipulative. "Looking forward to it," I texted back. 7 p.m.? Perfect. Wear the blue shirt. It brings out your eyes. My new job was challenging but rewarding. The salary was comparable to Morrison Industries, and the severance had given me transition time without financial pressure. At the grocery store, I was comparing tomatoes when I saw her. Emily stood 3 aisles over, wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. Her hair was shorter now, but I recognized her posture. She looked older, thinner, with the worn appearance of someone carrying stress. She approached slowly, her cart half empty compared to my full one. "Daniel," she said softly. "Hi. Emily, how are you?" "I'm managing. Working at the elementary school still, different district." I nodded. I'd heard she'd been forced to transfer after the scandal became public. "You look good," she said, genuine surprise in her voice. "Happy." "I am. Things are better now." She glanced at my cart, taking in the ingredients for tomorrow's dinner. The wine, the flowers I'd bought for Rachel. "Someone special?" "Yes," I said simply. Emily nodded, her eyes glistening. "I'm glad. You deserve to be happy." "Daniel, I know this doesn't change anything," she said finally. "But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for how I did it. For the lies, for making you feel crazy when you asked questions." I studied her face, looking for manipulation, but she looked genuinely broken, genuinely remorseful. "I know," I said. "But Emily, being sorry doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't give me back the year I wasted thinking I was happily married." She flinched. "I hate myself for that. I threw away the best thing in my life for nothing. Colin was nothing compared to what we had." "Then why did you do it?" "I don't know," she said, tears flowing. "I was bored, I guess. Felt taken for granted. Colin made me feel exciting, like I was special." I felt familiar anger rising, but alongside it was something else. Pity. Emily had traded 15 years of marriage for 6 months of feeling exciting. "You did matter," I said. "You mattered to me. More than anything." "I know," she whispered. "I know that now." "I should go," she said. "I don't want to make this harder." "Emily," I said as she started to turn away, "for what it's worth, I hope you find your way to a better life." She smiled then, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years. "Thank you. That means more than you know." I watched her walk away, diminished by her choices. I felt no satisfaction in her struggles, no vindication in her tears, just emptiness and the quiet knowledge that some things, once broken, could never be repaired. That evening, Rachel and I sat across from each other at the Italian restaurant, sharing wine and talking. She told me about her day, her plans for the weekend. "You're quiet tonight," she said as we walked to our cars. "Everything okay?" "I saw Emily today," I said. "At the grocery store." "How was that?" "Weird. Sad. She apologized, and I think she meant it." "How do you feel about that?" Relieved, maybe, like a chapter finally closed? Rachel nodded and took my hand. Good, because I'm much more interested in this part of your life. We stood on the sidewalk, her hand warm in mine, city lights reflecting off wet pavement. 6 months ago, I couldn't have imagined this moment. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and looked around at the life I'd constructed from the wreckage of my marriage. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was mine, built on truth instead of lies. I thought about Emily's question. Had my revenge been worth it? The answer was complicated. Justice had been served, but at a cost. I'd become someone harder, more calculating, less trusting. But I'd also learned that betrayal didn't have to be the end of the story. That it was possible to rebuild, to heal, to find something better. The man who had driven home from Denver that night was gone. But the man who remained, scarred but stronger, was ready to love again, to trust again, to build something real. It wasn't the ending I'd planned, but it was the beginning I'd chosen. And that was enough. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.